I just wanted to point out that I am doing this in the newer version of Photoshop, but I did just do this several times on this particular release. Sorry, 21.2.3, which is the version I have for Adobe Photoshop 2020. But I'm gonna do it on. I think this is the newest one, right? Yeah, it's telling me my computer is too old, but um, this is 23.5, so everything should work on either version because this is pretty simple stuff, but um, some of the settings might have changed, and that's sort of why it was acting funky with me. So anyway, here's this this free image that I got from Pexels of this young woman, and I'm going to drag it into the Photoshop version that I want. It's going to open it up. I'm going to change it from a background to just a regular layer. I'm going to call this one the original. And then I'm going to make some copies of it because we're going to work non-destructively without smart objects. And so we're going to name this one, I guess, base, and then name this one texture. All right. And I kind of messed around with it a little bit when I was doing the other version. So what we want to do with the base is we want to add a considerable amount of blur. And I think I was using 3 as the blur on Gaussian blur. Two things about this. You can click anywhere and then see that area of the image. So that's what this little square does. And then, of course, you can zoom in. But I think we kind of want to like make it as blurry as possible without taking away too much of the sort of detail and shape, I guess. I don't think 3 was enough, so let's try it with 5. Anyway, so now we got our blur on that base layer. If we can hide this layer, we can see it. Hopefully that's enough. And we're going to use the mixer brush on that layer too to kind of smooth out the color of the entirety of her skin. So now we're going to go to the texture layer and go to image, apply image. And this is the document that it's borrowing the image from. So that's the same document we're in, and that's good. And we don't want to sample the merge layer. We want to grab that base layer, the one that we blurred. So we're going to select that. And yours might be on normal or multiply, but we want to go down to subtract. I believe there's a way to do it with add too, because obviously adding is the opposite of subtracting. But select subtract, and then just make sure that your scale is set to 2 and your offset is set to 128. I don't know exactly why these numbers work, but they do. So click OK. And now, yeah, you can see we've got a blurry layer, and then on top of that, we've got this kind of texture layer, which is a sharp layer. And all we're going to do is change the blend mode of that layer to linear light. All right. And now with that texture layer selected, we can go to, you can't use the spot healing brush too. I kind of like the clone stamper tool because I can kind of borrow sections from other areas. And you can hopefully can just see how those things go away. Oops. Pressing the space bar to kind of move around and navigate around. But like, yeah, and the thing about the clone stamper tool is I try to borrow from other areas. I'll show you, hopefully I'll completely avoid it, but I'll show you what can happen sometimes if you sample from, like if you repetitively sample from the same area, you may end up with like kind of echo of the brush. But yeah, you'll see in a little bit. So yeah, I'm just going to clean this up real quick. Maybe I'll fast forward through this part. Maybe I won't. Yeah, and that's how I clean that up. You can see those blemishes go away. And let's just finish doing that. And you can look just at the texture layer by holding down the Option button, and that just kind of solos that layer. And so now we can kind of, yeah, it's a little too close. Go in here and just kind of go nuts and just really take away all this, all these blemishes and stuff. Yeah. And you don't want to do too much. Like I said, you can sometimes get a kind of an echoing from the clone stamp tool. The spot healing brush is cool too, but I notice that sometimes a spot healing brush will have like a sort of a blurry look. So yeah, if you find that you get that. So okay, so now that looks really kind of clear, and there's some areas we haven't worked on yet, but then we go into the base layer, and we go and we get the, where is it? The mixer brush tool. All right, letter B if you want to pull that up. And a couple of settings we need to make sure we have it set up with. We need to make sure that it's a clean brush. You can use any size you want, but set the hardness down to like 0 or a third or half. But basically, you're getting a feathered edge on the mixer brush, which is going to be a little bit smoother. Make sure this is turned off. Should be light gray. And this one should be dark gray. And what this means is that you're sampling with the mixer brush, a clean brush every time you click on it. All right. Your wet might be set to like 80 or even 100. Bring it down to like 10. And everything else should be fine. You should have load 75, mix 90, flow 100%. Make sure sample all layers is not ticked. And then basically we can even unshow or hide that one. And it's best to kind of back up and look at the whole image best you can. And what we're going to basically do is just sort of smooth out some of the color, kind of mixing it because it's a mixer brush, and just sort of smoothing it out. And it's doing so at a very light, amount. And I'm getting a little bit of, do you see that little bit of stutter there? I don't know if you guys can see that, but, and then let's do a little bit on the forehead, sorry. Okay. And, yeah. Okay, so we're just trying to sort of smooth this out a little bit. All right. And I'll show you in a second. We can actually go and do a little bit of work on the neck as well, but let's just see how this is looking. Okay, so, we got smooth skin, and that smooth skin, you can really look at sort of the difference. Oh, and another thing I think I went over is we can shift click both of these. So you select both of these layers, and then you can drag them. I can't even see because of the dumb recording thing. Yeah, and just like shift select both of these and drag them into a group. And then you can sort of turn off the whole group. And you basically see what we've done. Yeah. Oh, there's another cool little spot over here. So I'm going to go back to my texture layer and go back to the clone stamper tool. And I'm going to sample this little edge. Try to get right on that edge right there. And then I can literally cover this little tiny blemish that's right there. And just go boom. And it's gone. So yeah, that's one way. Of course, there's a million ways in Photoshop to do everything. But yeah, this is kind of a cool effect. You're basically using just the sort of high values of the textures to erase blemishes, and then you're kind of using the mixer brush on the blurry layer to kind of smooth out. And let's do, I said I'd do a little bit more on the mixer brush with the base layer, right? So let's just do kind of like reworking this section here, kind of smoothing it. We can turn the original off. I don't think that's affecting it though. But yeah, kind of like ideally smoothing it out so that now, don't want to go too far. You got to know when to stop, right? And you don't want to have everybody look too plastic. So again, we can just show and hide the whole group. Oops. To sort of see the before and after, right? So we've got smoother skin and less blemishes. Now, it's not a perfect job. I can see a little bit of kind of stuttering over here, but you get the idea. It's a really cool way to do this. Separating your layers, we're basically using the texture, and now you can see you got perfect details around the eyes, eyelashes, eyebrows, hair, everything. Lips, very important, even some pores that you do want, and none of the stuff that you don't want. And then on this base layer, we've just got kind of this very sort of smooth, almost porcelain looking dealio. But them combined together is compositing basically, but it's really cool. So yeah, I hope that helps you guys in your retouching endeavors, and is just another way to understand how you can kind of manipulate layers to get what you want. So yeah, hopefully that helps.